Hey, everybody, this is Justin Bogart, and welcome to the Real Estate Note Investing Be the Bank Note Investing broadcast. And today is June 14th, Wednesday, 2023. We got a guest on today along with Richard Thornton. Her name is Brenda Flatter, and she's from Abstract and Title. We're going to bring her on in a little bit to talk about kind of title commitments, loan policies, title policies, and kind of walking through really what they mean and the highlights of them and what you should really be paying attention to. So stay tuned. Richard Thornton, it's Wednesday.
It always comes around, same time. I don't know what to do about that.
I believe it's called Hump Day.
Hump Day, yes. I like
The
that.
commercial where the camel will go whoop whoop.
I missed that one. Thank you.
Do you have a television?
We are, yeah, sort of. I got a computer.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't have a television. Well, how have you been? Did you finally get some good weather? I know it's been chilly out in good old Petaluma.
It has been, just kind of cold and sultry. I mean, when it's cold is all relative, right? But I mean, it's kind of been in the low 60s and overcast and yucky out here. And they're saying it's because we got so much rain that it's, and we happen to have cooler water temperature, ocean water temperatures, and the additional moisture in the air is condensing and making clouds and blah, blah, blah. So it hasn't been, I mean, we're still waiting for summer. We're well into spring, and spring is not yet sprung.
We've definitely had our share of 90-degree temps, and our guest Brenda that's coming on today in a little bit, she can attest for it. She actually lives close to where I live, I think in the same city actually, in Fishers, Indiana. But yeah, we finally got some rain. So yesterday, I told you that, but the audience doesn't know this. My daughters and I and my dad, we went to Kings Island. So that's just a large amusement park that's probably about a 2-hour drive from here. It's not very far. So we go over there. The weather is forecast to be raining, but it is, on a Tuesday. So we anticipate it not being very crowded, which we're glad that we went because we had, okay weather. It was probably like 65 to 70, probably 10, 15 mile an hour winds. So we did have to dress a little bit for a little bit cooler weather. But it was pretty good. But it did rain on us towards the last couple of hours that we were there last night. So my kids wanted to go on one of the rides while it was raining. So I'm thinking okay, I don't want you to go on by yourself. So we get on there and we do this ride. And it's almost like if you imagine like a metronome, go back and forth, but you're on this like carousel to where there's probably like, 50 seats on it. It's a big circle, but it swoops back and forth. And it also spins like this. And they call it the delirium. And so you do that and you almost get inverted because you go up that high, but then these rain pellets are coming in like needles and just killing you right in the face and getting in your eyes and stuff. So it was quite the experience. And then when you get off the ride, of course, you're just like soaking wet, but they enjoyed it.
I got one on one of those once and they had nicknamed it the Vomit Comet. Yeah. And it smelled like it.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
so
hot summer day. Lovely.
Yeah, I was second guessing myself a couple of times because we would go eat and then we'd go get on a ride. And I'm thinking like, this is probably not a good idea because I didn't wait the 20 minutes, after you get done eating. Yeah. So,
what a myth! What a myth! Did your parents ever pop that on you that you had to wait half an hour or something for your food to settle before you'd go swimming or else you drowned? I mean,
I waited like 3 seconds, but yeah, that was definitely something that was.
Where did that come from? I have no idea.
Yeah? Let's get started on the show, and then we're going to bring our friend Brenda on. Okay.
All right.
All right, Richard. Got all our buttons working here.
I don't know. I think so.
I think the buttons are working. Sometimes I do this and I don't have the focus of my computer on the right screen, so I'm moving the mouse or something, clicking, and it's not moving the PowerPoint slide. But
Mm.
our broadcast today has some sponsorship, and it would not be possible without some sponsorship. And so, Richard and I company, American Note Buyers, we have the note deals. And so, we have a trade desk. If you email operations@ambfunds.com, we can get you some deals. Looking for partials, looking for notes to buy, or if you're looking to invest in a note, reach out to us. We also manage a fund as well. We can tell you more about that if you're interested. Our
We have
local
hundreds of people staffing that trade desk. Let me tell you.
hundreds of
Hundreds,
thousands of people.
hundreds, thousands.
We
Yeah.
have a call center
Yes. Doo, 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 doo.
inside the Petaluma headquarters.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So our local RIA club is called CIREA, Central Indiana Real Estate Investors Association. And they have an executive director there. If you email them, you get more information about them. It's a good club to be a part of, even if you aren't in the Indiana area. They have a lot of really good investors, real estate investors that actively do rentals, flipping houses, wholesaling, notes like Richard and I do. Um, you name it. We got a good group of people there. They got a ton of educational videos. So at a minimum, it's a great resource, additional resource for you to have. And of course, all the members there are invited to come to this monthly live stream as well to get education on really about notes. We do have a note investing training program we put together with our friends Larry and Mariska about, I think, 3 years ago now, Richard.
Mhm.
And it's called Constant Cash Flow. And it's just going to get you foundational knowledge on what it's like to be a note investor. And then once you get done with the course, it's about 25 plus videos with a couple of case studies at the end. And you're really going to have an idea of what is your niche and just kind of dive in and get more specific in that part of the note investing world of real estate investing. And it's a good way to spend your money. What's Richard? I don't know what the latest pricing is on it, but I want to say it's around $400 to $500 for the training, and it's lifetime. You just watch videos.
Mhm. $397.95 for you today.
For 20 easy installments of
That's right.
$397.95, right? All right. So we do have a self-directed IRA custodian that is a part of our sponsor program as well. They're called New View Trust Company. They're out of Florida. I always forget what city, and someone always reminds me of that city, and I always forget the city after the broadcast is done. But anyways, if you email new accounts at newviewira.com and you mention this broadcast, they're going to waive the setup fee for you. So that's kind of cool. But anyways, they do all sorts of real estate IRA stuff. The Coverdale educational savings accounts, the health savings accounts, the solo 401k, as they call it, sometimes checkbook LLC, Roth IRA, traditional IRAs, 401ks. They do all that stuff. So you can invest in notes, you can lend on it, you can invest in real estate. You can probably do Bitcoin if you want to, although we don't encourage you to do that because we don't know anything about it. It's just thin air. It's like investing in thin air, right?
That's right.
All right. This is for our local club members, for the CIREA Club. If you don't know already, they have a Facebook, they have a LinkedIn, and they have an Instagram page. Those are the handles there. I do have a nice YouTube channel that's got a ton of videos on it. If you want your PHP credits, take out your little smartphone here, take out the camera, wave it over that QR code. It'll pop up a little URL. You click on it with your finger, and then you just sign in with your first name, your last name, and your email address, and you get these credits. These credits goes towards something that gets you possibly some sort of credential at the end of your title, and or maybe a discount on future things. I don't know. It's all mystery to me.
It's all just a bunch of letters, Justin Bogard, BFD, BFF.
True. BFF.
Mm-hmm, BFF.
Or VBFF, very best friend.
That's right. That's a very good designation.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. We do have a podcast that we do. This is an audio channel podcast. It's called Be the Bank. If you see that logo and the words Be the Bank, you can download it or subscribe to it, on any of the podcast directories that are out there. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever, Amazon. We're on all of them. That's just to name a few. Tune in. Yes, Tune In is one of them. Stitcher. There we go. I couldn't think of Stitcher.
What is Tune In? I don't even know what Tune In.
I don't know what it is either, but I know that you can get this podcast and subscribe to it on Tune In. Whatever.
We're spreading this nonsense in places we don't even know. Okay.
I know. Most people that subscribe, it seems like they come from Apple Podcast and Google Podcast. assuming because people have like the Google Hub and they say, "Hey, play that amazing podcast called Be the Bank with that handsome host Justin Bogart," and just starts playing.
Do we get lots of follow-ups on YouTube?
Yes, we do. So we do record all the stuff that we do, even the podcast, as a video stream as well, and we put it on our YouTube channel so you can watch the video of it. Sometimes we have guests that we interview on it, or sometimes you can just see Richard and I just kind of cackle at each other, or we do things on camera that are just funny, and you don't have a sense for it unless you're watching the video. So we encourage you to do one or the other. It doesn't matter. You're gonna get the same content, same laughs out of both of them.
But they don't get to see you.
Only if they watch the video.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah. All right, Richard. Let's go ahead and bring Brenda on. I'm gonna pull up her camera while I switch to a little video real quick. Okay.
All right.
Miss Brenda Flatter, how are you this evening?
Hi, I'm fantastic. How are you, gentlemen?
Great.
Doing very well.
Good.
Thanks. And was I correct earlier? I stated, do you live in Fishers?
I live in Indianapolis, but I'm not far from. I'm on the northeast side of Indy, so I'm not far from you.
Now I'm going to be called a liar. The rest of my life, I'm going to be labeled as a liar.
Well, I heard all the stuff you were spewing before, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I don't have to be so accurate. Maybe I can just,
Okay, you've been in real estate for a while. I know you know the game. We're all weathermen and weather women. We really see what's going to happen, and it never happens, right?
There's a state that I work in, and the consistent phrase is, "It depends." Every time we talk about it, it depends.
Depends.
Yes and no. It's really a gray area.
Yeah, it is. It is a gray. Yeah.
You'll never get an exact answer from a real estate investor, no matter what happens.
Well, nobody wants to sell their secret sauce.
That's right. Or nobody wants to predict the wrong thing, I think is what it is. All right, Brenda, your company, you work for a Title and Abstract, and I've known you for probably since I started going to the local club Syria back in like 2015, 2016, because you had worked for a title company that's local to here in the Indianapolis area. That's how I got to know you. And so I've definitely done a lot of title work at that office and other offices that you've been in your current office.
Thank you.
And so the one thing that I always get confused on is kind of like, well, I know why you need title insurance, but I always have a hard time reading the policies or the commitments, and I always get confused really on what they mean. And so obviously today, we brought you on because Richard and I would just like clarification really on what a professional says, like, hey, this is what this stuff means. Because if anyone ever looks at a title report, a title commitment, there's a lot of information in there, and obviously it's there for a reason, and you pay for it, so you probably should know it. And I just get a good chuckle out of the fact that sometimes I look at that stuff, I'm just like, I don't really understand what that statement meant right there. But anyways, you're here to help us understand that, and we're going to obviously do that at a very high level. We're not going to get too granular with it because, quite frankly, we just don't have enough time. And those of you that are watching our live stream right now, please feel free to use the comment box on whatever medium you're on. Whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn. We'll see, we're on Facebook, our private Facebook group. And let's see, on obviously our YouTube channel. So we encourage you to do that. And definitely Brenda was going to answer your questions, or we may hold some of them to the very end as well. And so Brenda, I'll let you kind of give your pitch on your company and the other things that you may do that I haven't mentioned already.
No, and I appreciate that. Again, thank you again for having me. I'm happy to talk about title insurance and real estate with folks that are either needing a refresh or wanting to learn or even have some clarification set up. So thank you very much. Like you just said, I am Brenda Flatter. I'm the Executive Director of National Sales for Title and Abstract Agency of America. We are a national title company with or a national footprint. We have certain states that we are personally licensed in that we can handle the transaction, as well as some of our partners. And then we also have offices that we have already vetted, that in the event that it's a state that we're not licensed in, then I have vetted that office, or the team has vetted them to know that they're we're comfortable, the order will start with us. We'll make sure it gets set up and properly ordered, and then we'll continue in the communication as one of our vendors then would help assist us. That gives us that nationwide platform, whether it be residential or commercial. We have the ability to handle both, and any type of transaction, whether it be a default, whether it be traditional, whether it be the note buying, or any facet of real estate, we're able to facilitate that transaction. So, and I'm not sure if one of the slides or eventually I can give my contact information.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like we talked about before, that we're going to talk a little bit about what title insurance is, why do I need it. We're going to read through a commitment. And then we'll look at an owner's policy and a loan policy, just kind of give a brief overview. However, some of the people that are on here may have specific questions or specific things to their particular business and or their particular state. And I would welcome and invite anybody at any time to reach out to me. I'm happy to set on a one-on-one consultation and be able to help discuss their personal needs, what they're wanting, and how we'd be able to help facilitate that. So, and like you said, I've been in the business. I started in real estate in 2000. I was a realtor in the Indianapolis and surrounding area. And then from that, then I pivoted in 2005 to the title side. So I've been in title work since 2005. I've seen different markets, whether it be a boom, whether it be a crash, or depending on which side of that teeter-totter you're on, it could have been a boom rather than a crash. So, but yeah, so keep that in mind, that we are that I have a full background, and I feel like that's an added benefit that I can offer to you and your listeners with having that knowledge and how to properly set up and structure a deal. That's so awesome. Yeah, so again, and I encourage people to ask questions along the way. I thank Richard and Justin for monitoring the chat in order to help see if I can get something timely answered while I'm talking about it. So.
Well, I know that I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to kind of hold them until the end because sure. I want to get through the meat of what you want to go over, what we want to go over today. So,
for sure. So, well, go ahead and get started. So, I'm going to talk about what is title insurance. And basically, the simple answer would be that it is a contract of indemnity that protects the owner or the lender, according to the contract terms, against loss or damage from title defects. Upon payment of the premium is that when the title insurance company agrees to defend the title or pay the losses to the insured that it may have suffered in that title defect. So that's kind of like a very detailed answer. And in order to do that, I think we need to step back a little bit and do some of the simple terms and then go into the history, because it really was a landmark case in Pennsylvania in the 1800s that demonstrated the need for better protection for real estate purchasers. And so that's how the inception of title insurance came about. So thank goodness for Pennsylvania.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about specifically the slide that you've brought up is going to be some bullet points that everybody can take with them. It's very basic. It's a nice general layman's term. And I believe a layman's term answers for the questions that you're going to have. So, example, what is title? It's a title is the right to own or use your property. And that title also may have limitations on those rights. How you take title in a transaction, you're deeded a property, you become the owner of record, and then how you take title to that, whether it be a husband and wife, whether it be tenants in common, whether it's you and one of your children with the right of survivorship. So there's different ways in order to take title, and that also affects what will happen to title. So, for example, husband and wife are in title. The wife gets a judgment against her. If their personal residence is deemed as husband and wife, that judgment will never attach to that piece of real estate because of how they've taken title. But if they've taken title as tenants in common, maybe before they were married, and they didn't switch it after they were married, and then the wife gets the judgment, then that's going to attach to the piece of real estate.
That's interesting. I would think logically it'd be the other way around if they were titled as husband and wife. But
is that true even if it's a common property estate? Community
when you
property
say common property, like your personal residence?
Yeah, it's a community property state, right?
Oh, well, a community property state may have a little bit of a different legality. For example, I'll specifically say like in Indiana,
Mhm.
if I've taken title as husband and wife and I get a judgment, it will not attach. Now, if we've taken title as joint tenants in common, let's say before we were married, and then I get a judgment, that's going to attach. And one of the things too that I, luckily enough for my friends who know I'm in the business, when they're separating or getting divorced and, they're not selling the house, or maybe one of them staying and then I always suggest to them, hey, we need to redo your deed. we need to get this taken care of, because you're no longer husband and wife and she's on title. So, or he's on title. So there's some caveats that can fall into how you've taken title and what could happen to it.
Is that just as simple as a quick claim deed to get that off there?
I would not recommend doing a quick claim deed, because a quick claim deed will cancel your title insurance. I've seen that happen time and time again when, for example, and this is a nationwide comment. Yeah. I've seen an investor take title in their personal name, buy the property. We've issued title insurance, and the minute they walk away from the closing table, they do a quick claim deed to an LLC. Now their title insurance is gone.
Wow.
Because title, one of the things too that I'll kind of mention, and if I repeat myself, I apologize. But one of the things with title insurance is it is issued to the owner of record and is only valid as long as they are the owner of record.
Gotcha.
If Jack buys the house, Jack gets the title policy. If he puts it in ABC LLC, then instantly that title policy is null and void. Now,
Boy, I bet you that is those are little known facts. I have never heard that. I've been doing this for a long time. Wow.
That is probably, like, if anything anybody learns today, that's going to save you the most amount of money.
That's a good
because
nugget.
It happens so many times. And so, like, in that situation, I tell people, look, because sometimes with bank-owned property, once you've gone into contract, the bank doesn't want you to change, any terms, who the name is, they're very, careful about that. So when we get to the closing, then we can sign the documents, but then we can go ahead and at closing, go ahead and create a new deed and then issue the policy to that deed holder before, and then keep it in succession. So there are things that you can do before the transaction closes in order to ensure that title insurance policy that you've just asked someone to pay for is going to stay intact. So
that would also apply to all these sub 2 deals that get done. So you transfer a property sub 2, the mortgage, and guess what? You've just shot yourself in the foot.
The only thing that's valid, well, subject to deals, that in itself can be its own rabbit hole. But on a subject to deal, the owner of record's owner's insurance policy is gone. Now the lender's policy will stay in effect because ABC lender is still actively holding the mortgage.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what is title. Now let's talk about what is a title search. The title search is a standard part of the home buying process that is conducted to uncover issues that can prevent your right to the property. The closing agent's going to review public records. There's going to be different facets that we're going to go down in order to see, what those records hold, whether it be municipalities, government, the different offices within the county, to make sure that the public records are accurate and to see what problems or defects that could cause legal issues, as well as we can also do the chain of title to make sure that as the property has changed hands over time, that the deeds are accurate, the legal description is correct, and that there is not a break in the chain. So that's another benefit of what we do. And
I have a question real quick.
Sure.
It's just about that. Just because it came to mind. How long back do you go and search for the chain of deeds?
Sure. So on a purchase transaction, when it's brought to us, we'll go back 30 years. Okay. And in order to do, that's how far we go back to insure. So we really have made sure that, because by then sometimes it's one owner, but in a 30-year search, usually you're at least 2 owners deep.
Yeah.
when you go back, but we make sure, because, you guys mentioned quick claim deeds, and you work with investors, and margins can be tight for folks. And a lot of people do not see the value that we hold until they have a title claim. But while they're doing that and they're quick claiming their property on the street corner, not using a title company, Dan and Bob are on the street, they quick claim a property, hand him a check for $10,000. He gets the quick claim. They go to the courthouse. Well, they're just hoping that what research they did, maybe they feel comfortable with, but I will tell you here, things can be misindexed. Things can be not recorded. Things can, come up or not be found, depending on the part of the country you're in, as far as online access versus actually having to send an abstractor to the courthouse to go do the work. Again, so it should make our value seem very apparent because of what we're able to find and protect. Because in the event that something was missed and I've issued you a title policy, that is now my claim to defend.
And we see that happening all the time with real property, is people quit claiming it. And I get it, what they're trying to do, but I can tell you with certainty, I'm not buying real property, even for investment stuff, without getting the insurance on it.
Yeah. And that's smart. Yeah. Well, and I'm going to kind of bounce a little bit here just with our conversation, but that's the difference about title insurance. Title insurance, when you come to us with your contract and you come to us with your property, we look at it. So today's June 14th. Mm-hmm. So June 14th going backwards 30 years is what we do to look to make sure every judgment, every lien, every mortgage payoff, the chain of title, everything is accurate and correct up until today. So then what you do going forward, it's on you, but you have clear and marketable title. Your lender can be in first lien position, or you're paying cash and there is not a lien on the property. But then tomorrow, June 15th, you could get a mechanics lien issued, but that's on you.
But you wipe the slate clean once you buy it, and you start over. You're like, okay, now I know going forward, like it's like you said, it's on me. That's a good way of putting it.
Well, and the thing is, the thing that's different is when people think about title insurance, they think about homeowners insurance, and then think about car insurance. You pay that from the date going forward, and there's an annual premium for each one of those items, your home or your auto, an annual premium that you pay. Title insurance is a one-time fee that you pay at when you go to close, and it's good for as long as you're the owner of that policy. And let's just say, for example, a $50,000 property. Now and title insurance rates vary by state. Some states, they're filed rates. Some states, it's promulgated to where the Department of Insurance, Department of Finance determine what everybody charges. So like in Florida, no matter where you are in Florida, everybody's paying the same amount for the title insurance. It's some of the other ancillary fees that may be different, but the premium is going to be the same. And so it could be just a few $100s is all that it's going to cost. And then when I say then it's my claim to defend, anybody on this call, you and Richard, or anybody listening, if you've ever called an attorney in the last 3 years that's a good attorney, it's a minimum of probably $300 to $400 an hour. And if you're at a low price point, and I just said your title policy was a couple $100, well, that's not even the hour phone call to that attorney to explain to him why you need their help.
Right.
So Brenda, we've got a very good friend, and she is asking a question. We'd like to say,
sure. Bring it on.
Hello to Serena. And Serena says, does title insurance cover the life of the loan or life of, I think he means the particular lender? Okay.
That's a very good question because, very good question. So when a lender's policy is issued, for example, we will issue that lender's policy to Bank of America. And then as long as Bank of America holds that, the lender policy is valid. However, we also know it doesn't, and it would still carry if they now send you a letter saying your mortgage is being serviced by, because your mortgage, your note and mortgage terms don't change, maybe who you're paying your check to, or if the note is sold to somebody else. If the note is sold to somebody else, then a new lender's policy would need to be put into effect. However, if it's just a matter of I don't know, like if Rushmore, Doval Mule, MERS, those are probably three of the most popular servicing companies that maybe anybody here listening, that either their personal mortgage or maybe one of their rental properties has been sold to. So Bank of America is still the mortgage holder. They're just having somebody else service it. I hope that answered her question.
I think it did.
Yeah.
She says, sorry for the typo.
So,
it happens.
So just as a very quick aside, I have a friend who just bought a house in Italy, and it takes 6 to 8 months there to do a title search because they have somebody, they call them a notary.
Yes.
And they physically have to go talk to everybody who could possibly own that property and get an estoppel. So they have to talk to the brothers and the sisters and the aunts and the uncles and, who knows where they are in Italy, and they have to physically talk with them. So
there's no one-day transactions.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that tidbit. So when somebody calls me and says, how long is it going to take to get a title report or a title commitment? And I tell them for a residential property, on average, it's 5 to 7 business days.
Mm-hmm.
If they bulk, I'm going to say, hey, you could go buy in Italy. It'll take you months.
That's right.
That's right. Just look
now,
what Italy does.
I do have an interesting transaction that's recently come into my world in Puerto Rico. And I've noticed they do things in a different facet and a slower process. So I've had to warn my client, who is primarily, even though Puerto Rico is the US, I go, they have a different mindset and it's going to take a little longer. So I think that maybe just in America, people are impatient to buy and sell real estate.
Things move a lot slower down there.
They're on island time.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brenda, I'm going to bring up that title commitment that you.
Sure. You want to go through that?
And then, we'll go ahead and run through that. So you want to explain the difference between the title commitment and the policy, or if they're the same? Or I don't want to use words interchangeably if they're not the same thing. So.
No, it's similar. So when you have a purchase contract and you come to us, we're going to open up a title commitment. And that is a commitment to insure the transaction for the contract price. So let's just say it's $100,000 house. It's on 123 Main Street. So we're going to go to our searcher, to our underwriter, and we're going to have it pulled up, and they're going to let us know. We're going to give them details about the transaction that we already know about, such as property address, loan amount, purchase price, buyer, seller. And then we're going to grab all this data from the abstract and or searcher that goes out to form this commitment. So if you can see here, an ALTA commitment, and ALTA is American Land Title Association. It's the commitment for title insurance. This particular commitment is written or is shown by Westcor, and Westcor is one of the underwriters that we utilize. You may have also heard underwriters such as First American, Fidelity, Old Republic. Those are, some of the other, those are really common names. Westcor's, I would say, one of the up and coming ones as well. We're a very proud partner of theirs. So as you can read through here, it lets you know that the commitment is an offer to insure one or more title insurance policies. When it says one or more, the owner's policy and the lender's policy. Okay. And then, and it lets you know that all claims or remedies can be sought against the company involving the content of the commitment. So we're letting everybody know, here's what we have to do in order to give you clear and marketable title. And
so
then there's
this is discovery. This right here is discovery, right? Where the searcher has said, this is what we found.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not sure how you want me to stop at the first page here.
No, this is just commitment conditions. These are just kind of standard, it's letting you know, like it's giving you definitions of what, it's giving you definitions here of different items. So we all know like the playing field that we're on.
Okay.
And then it talks to you about schedule B1, B2, and what those requirements are. And I don't know if you can make this available to your audience if they want to,
for a price.
Okay.
For a price it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a Florida, just a commitment, an example commitment. This doesn't mean it's going to look the same or feel the same as a title commitment for maybe a different company or a different state. Obviously, we can't have a blanket commitment, correct? It's all relative to who is doing it.
Really, it is. And sometimes it's even done by title company. So for example, we pulled this commitment directly from the underwriter. Some title agents do their own commitments and then decide because they're an agent is kind of like a broker in the fact that a title agent can underwrite for more than one title company. For example, that's what we do. So there are some deals that we can shop, based on the price, maybe we could get better rates. Yeah. If it's an underwriting issue, there might be some underwriters that are more constringent than others that we can utilize. So for example, if somebody goes to a First American agent, they're going to get a First American title commitment because that's their only option. And if they tell them no, it's no. To where some of the title agents, such as myself, that have multiple underwriters, then sometimes there's workarounds or there's other solutions. And sometimes it's the same answer, but it just depends. And again, and I do want to highlight, it is, like you mentioned, it is state specific, what the title commitment will have or look at in some facets. And then, but in many ways, the underwriter will have their own format or another title agent.
What do you want to point out on this page, if anything?
Yeah, so on this one, it just talks about the company's our ability to write to amend, that we can amend the commitment at any time. Okay. Commitments are good for 30 days. And after 30 days, they require an update. Gotcha. Many times on cash transactions, we go ahead and encourage the update, even though it's, the buyer or seller may not want to. A lender is going to require the update to be done. And every time an update is pulled, there is an update fee for that. Ours runs about $100.
It's still worth it, though, especially if in our case, when we're the lenders and we're trying to get a loan policy on this stuff. And I'll go into
because I could pull title today, and and then in 2 weeks somebody files a lien. So you really need to stay current. Yeah.
I'll go into why a little bit later as to why the title insurance is important to us as note investors as well. But the loan policy is obviously one of the main policies we want to make sure is in place.
Yeah. And it just talks about some liability, and then you can keep scrolling down if you like. I think we're going to get.
It's basically like when they put a new drug out there. Like the title companies, like they say, this will solve this problem. You'll feel great, but all the side effects are nausea, diarrhea, amnesia. Have Richard Thornton as your business partner. The list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those are same symptoms you get buying and selling real estate. It's the same symptoms: nausea,
anxiety,
nights, insomnia,
stress.
Maybe a bad mental illness.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, discredit anybody with that.
No, we're just making light because I think it's just funny because I just laugh because there's so much information to read in the policies. It's like sometimes after you read several of them, what's boilerplate and what's not. Yeah. You get it. The title company, can't say they're going to give you the money for this insurance problem just because, there's stipulations,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. There's definitely going to be things on here that are listed that I'm going to refer to as a standard exception. So, okay. Here's
Dorena wants you to buy some stock in Pepto-Bismol, Justin.
Yeah, there you go.
Good deal.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of where we're going to really get into the details of your commitment. So for example, on this one, and this is going to be very similar to what other title company you're going to go to. It gives you the insuring agent, the office, any loan numbers, commitment numbers, test or office file numbers, the property address. It gives you the date of the commitment, letting you know when this was enacted, the policy that's to be issued. There are a few different types of policies. The Alta owner's policy is probably the most common that most people are aware of. And then on this particular one, it's also checked that there will be a loan policy. This is now letting somebody know, okay, there's going to be a lender involved. And then the proposed insured amount. So let's say the purchase price is $200,000, but they're putting, 50 down. So the proposed loan amount will say $150,000. It lets you know the interest, how the estate is interested in the land commitment, like how they've taken title. And then the title is vested in their name, whether it be the revocable trust of Brenda Flatter, whether it be Jack and Jill Smith, husband and wife, So, or ABC LLC is going to let you know how they've taken title. This is important, and this same document or same line is going to come up on a title report. So this part's important, and I want to highlight for the folks that are buying and selling notes or buying and selling real estate. You want to make sure that you pull this information, so when you're talking to Jack and you're negotiating with Jack, that you know Jack's the owner of record and they can actually do the deal. Because many times they'll talk to Jack, we'll pull the title work, and we'll see that Helen is the owner of record, which may be his mom. And Jack, if there's no POA, if you know what I mean. So again, or people that are wholesaling deals. This is a big caveat for the wholesalers. They want to make sure that who they're talking to can, because it can make a nightmare of a transaction for everybody involved. And plus you're going to want to see what else is pulled. And so then number 5,
all of us know one person that has ran to the fraudster that's done that.
Yeah. I mean, I can give horror stories on those. Okay, so then we're going to go number 5, and the land is described as follows. That's where the legal description is going to be pulled. That's where that whole line, and it can be lot and block, subdivision, 2 or 3, or it could be see Exhibit A, and it could be.
I've seen them lengthy. I've seen them very lengthy.
Yeah. Or if they're buying 5 parcels, you know what I mean? Then it can be parcel 1, parcel 2. So, but number 5 is the legal description that will be talked about the property. So
schedule A is kind of like a summary of what's going on. You're checking this, you're looking at it, you're saying, okay, I'm getting either 1 or 2 policies, let's just say in common, 1 or 2 policies, owners and loan policy. You're making sure that the owner's policy is, to the sales amount, and the loan policy is to the loan amount. You're looking to make sure that the legal description is exactly what you're dealing with, and that is important to look at, especially if you're doing multiple deals at the same time, and all your information. So Schedule A is the summary, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, for sure.
Schedule B, requirements.
Yeah. So these are B1. These are the requirements.
Okay.
So, and this is a clean one. You know what I mean? So it just talks about it talks about the agreed amount for the estate, for interest to be paid, any premiums for the title company. It talks about any deed requirements. For example, if, there was something that, they might say, oh, we recommend this type of deed, whether it be a special warranty deed, like how they're going to have to convey title, or any mortgage requirements.
Yeah.
And then they let you know that the borrower's affidavit has to be signed and delivered to the company at closing. So it lets you know the documents that are going to be needed in order to convey the title to the next person, to the mortgage company. It gives you all the list of the B2 requirements.
Okay. In order for the policy to be
B1,
written.
sorry, that's B1. Yeah, B1.
Yeah. So this is in order for the policy to be written. These are the requirements that have to take place.
Correct.
All right.
Brenda, did you know that if you commit title fraud, you can get a street named after you?
Is everyone called Thornton Place? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I live in Petaluma, which is just north of Sacramento. And Mr. Keller came out from Kansas City, Kansas, an enterprising young man, and decided to, in the growing town of Petaluma, sold plots of land to everybody in downtown Petaluma. Got on the bus or got on the boat and went back, the train, went back to Kansas City. Only problem was he didn't own any of the property. And now I live on Keller Street. So there you go.
Well, so far, I'm not aware of any flatter streets. So apparently, if that's your benchmark, then I have a stellar reputation that I don't have any streets named after me.
Well, if you do, aren't you getting married soon? You'll be changing your last name maybe, and then you won't have to worry about it. I mean, it all works itself out.
Oh, so I've got a few months to do some fraud. Yeah, so I've got a few months to do some fraud, and then I'll change my name.
Just saying, that's somebody else. I'm not that person.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Let's get to these exceptions here.
So then let's go down to B2. Okay. This is kind of where this is probably the comment that we're going to look, or this is the B2 can get really messy.
Yeah.
It can get really messy really quick. And so this is where it's going to talk about any defects, liens, adverse claims that are done that were not part of, B1 that are going to be put down on B2. This is where any lien, the right to lien, whether it be water, sewer, your mortgage, your HELOC, your second, judgments, credit card debt or credit card judgments, Dr. Bill, well, not Dr. Bill so much anymore, but this is where all this stuff will get lined up on. And again, depending on the state. For example, in this particular state in Florida, we have to do a separate search because in Florida, municipal liens do not get pulled when we do a commitment or a title. It's a separate search. So they affect the property, but they're not attached to the property. For example, in Indiana, when we do a title search, I'm going to see water, sewer, I'm going to see everything. I don't have to do a separate search that's going to affect it because it affects insurability.
So would a public announcement in a newspaper, they used to put in the back of newspapers that sort of hear ye, this property has been sold, blah, blah, blah. Is that considered public record?
That is a very good question. And I don't know.
It's public.
I know that they have, I don't know. Cause I know that I see signs where it says, there's a public hearing and it's usually affecting zoning or, and I would have, I'm guessing that I would have to think that some of that would fall in. So if I had a house that was, affected because there's going to be a zoning meeting, there might be some sort of notice that would get pulled up to, hey, look, you're zoned residential, but they're looking, maybe they're looking to make it multi-use or affecting so I really don't know.
Yeah. There's probably a public record behind the public notice, but it just struck me as.
Yeah. And this is where it's also in this in B2, this is kind of, like the meat of everything. It's also going to let you know, like what the taxes are, the breakdown, if there are 2 installments, what each installment is, if there's, taxes that need to be paid, in arrears. And it just lets you know. Also, this is a factor that'll let us know if the property's been sold at tax sale, because there are times where a property can be sold at tax sale, and depending on the timing being really tight, if it was sold at tax sale during the redemption period, so somebody wants to sell it, then when we call and say, what's the taxes? And they're like, oh, there's no taxes owed. Then the next question is, who paid them?
Right.
Because sometimes the county will note that it's been paid because it was part of the tax sale, when in fact it's, needed to be part of the redemption in order to pull the property back to the owner to the new buyer. If they're trying to sell it during the redemption process. So
does this cover a delinquent sewer, water and sewer also?
Yes. Yeah. As long as it's recorded. The one key thing that, I will tell you about a commitment and a title report, we find everything that's been recorded. That's all we can find. So if nothing's recorded, I'm not going to find it. Now, that's the other benefit of title insurance, because I did mention that if something was misindexed, then if we don't find it, but it was there, then, it's a potential claim.
Okay. Interesting.
Right, so we got Schedule A. We've got Schedule B Part 1 is requirement. Schedule B Part 2 is exception. This is just common stuff in pretty much any title commitment that you would see in any state, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And then after that, there's just standard some of this stuff is just standard verbiage as to what goes on a title commitment. But again, even though there have those standard exceptions, we will clear up all those liens, get payoffs, get releases, whether it's debits and credits on the closing statement. Maybe they take care of it outside of closing. They provide us the information that we're needed to be able to remove it off the commitment. Some things get done ahead of time. Some things get settled at the closing table. And that's probably one of the hardest things to get, some of the buyers to understand is you might see 10 items, on your commitment, and we might settle all 10 of those items on the closing statement. And that's where then when we go to the policy part, it jumps, because this is the commitment to insure. And then we're going to show them what the policy ends up being.
Yeah. Even if you see 14, exceptions on there, it doesn't mean you're going to have to do a bunch of stuff. You could do one thing and could wipe out 6 or 7 of them. Yeah.
Correct. And the other thing too, that I want to point out, that sometimes with a lot of the municipalities or code enforcements, board of health, different offices, different parts of the country call the offices different things, but they may have a repair order put on the home or a demo order that's going to be a recorded item that's going to be reflected there. Well, there's some cities and counties that won't work with anyone, but you could say, hey, I bought this home. I see that you're telling me I need gutters, downspouts, maybe a roof repair. because there's these board to orders on my home and I'm getting ready to fix them. So what we can do then is we can take an exception to title. So they stay on the commitment. The new homeowner goes and does all the repairs, fixes the house like they're going to do, goes to the county and says, okay, I've done all of what you've done, what you've recommended. Then they've provided a release, and then we can come back and amend the policy.
Right.
Now, on a lender transaction, normally you cannot, but on cash transactions, there's a lot more flexibility because you're working with, and hopefully you're working with a buyer too, that if they're savvy enough or they understand the system or will allow us to teach them, sometimes there are things that you just take exception to, you go and remedy it, you come back, get the release, get them to take it off, and then you remove it prior to going to closing.
I found this title commitment for one of the notes that we bought that we also got title insurance for. So I'm just going to buzz through it kind of quick, just because it probably has real data in it.
Is this this is the one we did in Texas?
It's one of the 3 that we did at the same time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, this is more of the boilerplate stuff in the beginning.
Oh, see, perfect. See, as long as you're willing to share it, because this was your information, I had to share.
I don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So see, again, so everybody can see the effective date. We talk about there's going to be an owner's title policy, the Texas residential owner's policy. It tells you the policy amount of 44,000. That gives you that. Tells you who the proposed insured is going to be. And then and so there was no loan here, or no, I'm sorry. Then down at the bottom, you go to the Texas short form, the loan amount, who the proposed is, the conditions that are going to be needed. Yeah.
And so in Texas, it's a little bit different. Notice there's a short form, and then there's also different ones. Obviously, your title company is going to know what you need.
Yeah, most states have a short form and a long form. It depends on the lender. Most of us run on the short form now. Some lenders do require the long form, or but it just depends.
So if your title,
see, go up there. See how Nancy Cross and Ronaldo Cross are the owners. Scoot back up just a tiny bit. Okay, so it's fee simple is how they, they were taking title. They show that Nancy and Ronaldo are separately listed, with each one of their names. And then here's that legal description, all there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if your title agent likes you, you get the short form, and they don't like you get the long form. Is that right?
No, usually the lender usually the lender determines who does the long or the short.
There's more.
Yeah, look how long that is. And that was just, look, and it said it goes for 0.464 acres of land. That's that entire legal description.
Right. So you can comment on something. I've often wondered about this. I've got several properties that have a longer title description like you have right there. And then some of them have something like the 64th block of Appleton Way, 64 feet over, going 10 feet wide. And that's it. And you go, what kind of
3 paces to the left.
Yeah.
Check for wind.
Right. I always like the ones that say big rock and oak tree, because then you go out there and somebody moved the rock and the oak trees died. So
there was an earthquake in California and it separated into 3 miles apart.
That's right.
Yeah. So there are times when you will see a detailed legal description like this, or there might be like a shortened one. For example, like in your subdivisions where it might say, Avalon Hills, Section 1, Lot 42. And then there might be a little longer of a more detailed legal description. So sometimes that's based on, the survey will determine the legal description. And then a lot of times we will use the last recorded deed of record and just use that legal description pulled forward to keep the chain of title accurate.
Okay. So why in some instances are there more than one description out there, where I know that sometimes I'll be working on a quick claim deed or whatever it is, and I'll send it in for recording, and the recorder's office will say, no, we realize that's a valid one, but it's not the one we want you to use. We want you to use X.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in that particular case, that's again where, if in our world, if I'm doing a legal description, so Justin calls me and says, hey, can you create a deed for me? The first thing I'm going to do is pull the last deed of record of the property he's talking about in order to use that legal description to make sure it's consistent for my legal description. And I think that's what can happen sometimes is people just maybe use a shortened version, or there'll be a typo in the legal description if the recorder doesn't catch it, or if or the recorder might let it go by, and it can really cause chain of title issues.
Okay.
Here's the exception page for this one. We're going to go through this, and we need to get through those policies real quick to show what they are. So I'm just going to buzz through this. So here's the exceptions. I think most of this is boilerplate.
Yep.
Right. Nothing that needs to be stand out that's unique to this situation. And then as it gets to the bolded points, I find in this particular report it's good because that's more or less the stuff that I was paying attention to.
Yeah.
And then as you get into here, when I was doing this, working with your other partners, we kind of got to the meat of this and could figure out exactly how we could fix this stuff here.
Yeah. So your item G and your item H are very indicative to Texas. Depending on the parts of the country you're in, oil, gas, and mineral rights are completely, and that again could be another topic and another conversation, but that is something separate that happens in certain parts of the state where you, Justin, may own the house and the dirt, but then they're going to own what's underneath it or have access or rights to what's underneath it. So, but that doesn't happen in every part of the country.
The liquid gold that flows underneath the house.
Yeah.
I think, we got Schedule C on this one.
Again, I think a lot of that looks like it's just all standard, standard requirements in order to keep everything accurate.
Yeah. It's pointing out some of the other liens that it found.
Yep, it does. And then what has to be satisfied, the request of the courthouse, the plat. Yeah. And then there's some blanket items too, like the mobile home, because that's, very popular in Texas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm buzzing through this quickly, guys, just to kind of get through things.
Okay, right here's your chain of title. So if you look at number 17, number 18, and number 19, these are going to talk about or 18. It's the types of deeds. So it's showing you who the chain of title.
Gotcha. Perfect. Okay. Looks like this one just has extra stuff at the end here. I'll go ahead and pull up. Which policy do you want me to pull up? Does it matter which one?
Well, we could we can briefly go through these because a lot of this is going to mimic. When you see the commitment to what the owner's policy look like, let's do the owner's policy first because that's going to affect the people on the call even if they're paying cash, and they want an owner's policy, then that's what it's going to look like.
Okay, I think I found 2 of them here. Okay. Does this look like an owner's policy?
It is, yes. So when I went ahead and proved we pulled these samples just in order to keep it consistent. It's a different title agent. So Agents National Title Insurance is another underwriter that is out there. But and they give you a policy number and then the covered risk. A lot of this is just standard exceptions. Exclusions to the policy. And then more conditions, defining terms. Like, we saw on that one commitment, you had the definition of terms.
Yeah.
And a lot of this stuff some of this stuff is this is standard verbiage, standard requirements, exceptions that are going to be part of the policy. So for example, like if we took exception to, a mortgage or something, then that's going to highlight probably a little farther on down. Oh no. So yeah. And then that attaches. So that's the policy. And then the commitment then would attach, to the back of that, because then we're going to clear up everything and let everybody know, okay, this information goes to, okay, here you go, Schedule A. Yeah.
I think this one was titled like a loan policy.
Yeah. And so see how it mimics it. So the policy really mimics the commitment, especially on Schedule 1 Schedule A. It's pretty much the same page. And then you go, and then again, this is where we talk about different, and these are other endorsements that if, for example, a lender may require that you have an endorsement, sometimes not.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then here, exception from coverage. So for example, let's say I was taking exception to a mechanic's lien or some sort of a judgment, then it lets you know that if this one surfaces, it's not our claim to defend.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
I think you did. Thank you, Brenda. You did a great job of going over the commitment, and that was a good that we drove into that, and we saw the policies here. I'm gonna go ahead and just get all three of us on camera here while we transition out of this little section, because I think we're gonna ask some more questions. Richard and I will, and if there's any comments that we missed on the board, Richard, we can definitely bring those up. So give me just a second to flip this around for us.
I'm going to put my info in the chat. Can everybody see the chat or just us?
Everybody can see I think you only have the private chat that's just for the three of us. So if you want to give it to, if you want to go ahead and shout out, we can do that. And we can also share it a little bit later too.
Okay, sure. I just went ahead and typed my email and my phone number.
Yeah, I can share that with the group here. You can call her day or night. She will answer the phone.
You can call. I might not answer at a certain time, but you can call. I call everybody back and answer every email.
She does. I can attest to that with working with you for many years, that you do respond back, whether you have an answer or not. You acknowledge that the message has been received, and that's what
even if you're mad at me, I'm going to call you back. Because that's the nice thing about our job is you still need a human to do it. And with that, we're going to have a mistake, but we're still going to answer the phone. We're still going to remedy it. We're going to take care of it. Yeah.
So you're not afraid of being replaced by AI?
I'm too animated. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a question. Now I already forgot it, but I was going to mention earlier in the broadcast, I said I'd wait till now. So as note investors, for those of you on the call, you're not going to find that every title company is going to understand what we're trying to do if we're trying to use a title company for our transaction. So it's going to be kind of a language barrier. So you have to be sure you're very clear to the title company exactly what you're doing, because they're going to make assumptions, because they're doing thousands of these at a month's clip. And so they're going to assume this is real property transaction, not initially understanding this is a note transaction, that you're just exchanging the ownership of the debt from one party to another. Or you may be doing a land contract where you do need to do the deed as well, and get the title insurance and all that stuff as well. So that's the one thing that I noticed with title companies. What this is more a statement, not a question. So what I like about using your company, Brenda, is that I don't have to go find a title company in a specific state. I go to you, and you're almost like a title broker, even though you do have your own title companies. But I consider you kind of like a title broker, I guess. And then I can say, hey, like I did in Texas, like, hey, look, I got one in Texas. I got 3 in Texas. I'm going to do at the same time. I want to do title insurances, all new policies, and I want loan policies. And this is who's going to pay for what, and this is what's going to happen. You guys did all the escrow and everything, made it real simple. So that's what I like about it. So you pretty much, I believe what you told me before is that in almost any state or every state, you have the ability to get us whatever we need: the insurance, the title insurance, loans policy, do the escrowing, be the agent for that. Is that true?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. It starts with me and you and your client, or what we'll have that conversation, because one of the things that's very important is defining the terms. Yeah. Because wholesale to somebody is going to mean something different than to me. So when they talk about, I'm assigning a contract or I'm wholesaling a deal, my first thing I say is, give me that definition. What is your definition of wholesaling? That way I make sure, are we doing 2 closings? Are we doing 1 closing? I know people like to call them double closes, the terminology or whatever. So I just want to know what we're looking at, and then how to set it up and structure it. Because what you're talking about, Justin, a lot of people are going to call their local title office and they're a plug and play, round hole, round peg, round hole, round peg, buyer, seller, realtor, purchase.
Yep.
buyer refi. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So when you throw something like this into the mix and it's not part of their daily routine, especially when they're super busy, they don't want to mess with these deals because it's out of their realm. And where we gravitate and drive to the investor market, because we take the out of the box transaction, because you all still need us.
Yep.
You know, you might not be the easy transaction, but you still need help, and you still need us to make sure we're protecting your property rights. So those are the things that I like to be a part of, help structure the deal. Then I can contact the title company, or my team can, and say, hey, look, we've got this happening. Here's what we need done. This is the buyer, this is the seller, this is the note, whatever the terms are, and help set up the deal to guide them a little bit easier in making sure that you're assisted smoothly.
I'm going to bring up a question here from one of our Facebook users. Their name's not displayed because StreamYard they have to give the rights to StreamYard to display it. So they're not being anonymous. They're just asking a question here. So if I buy a property for $100K and I'm going to rehab it with an ARV of $250K, I'm only insured for the $100K, correct? Give me your advice.
Sure. At the onset of your purchase, correct. We can only insure the property for either what you're paying for it, or we can go up to the assessed value. So for example, on this one, I'm going to give you two scenarios. Let's say you bought it for 100. Let's say it's valued at 150, the assessed value. I would go up to the assessed value to provide you insurance. But most of the time, what we have people do is you do the closing, we insure it for $100,000. You have clear and marketable title. You're going to go and rehab the property. Now, if you're holding onto the property, it's your personal residence, you're going to turn it into a rental. Then at that point in time, we can amend the policy, maybe get an appraisal, and then we can go back and say, oh, look, he's staying the owner of record, but he's going to increase the value to 250. Here's the difference of the policy amount. You pay that premium, and then we just increase your title insurance to $250K. Now, if you're rehabbing it and then going to sell it at the $250K mark, then the new buyer will get that policy for $250K.
So I should point out too that hi Dennis.
Yeah, if we would have known it was Dennis Weber, we wouldn't have brought the
That's right. But I should point out too that your lender will only insure you for that amount, whatever they're lending. So
the lender's policy is only going to be based on if you're buying it for 100,000 but they're only lending you 80, then our lender's policy is only going to be for the 80,000.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My question now, I just remembered, I've not known anybody that has I can't even say this right. I don't know anybody that has asked the title company to redeem the claim that they have on title.
Mm-hmm.
Like meaning they've got an issue and they've actually used a title insurance and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of other people saying that they've known somebody that's done it, but I've never heard of anybody doing it. How common does that happen?
Well, we need claims to show our worth. We need claims to show the worth. And millions of dollars are paid out every year in title claims. So in the event you walk away from the closing and you have a title policy and somebody reaches out and says, hey, I replaced the gutters and downspouts on this and I have a mechanic's lien, you now owe me this money. Well, then the homeowner would then call me and say, Bren, here's the information. I get the information that's needed. You have a title policy, you're protected. And then we would take it, reach out to that person and then handle it from there. And then the research is done. Was it something that was missed? Was it not missed? And he's just trying to, get money. Or if it was missed, then we decide, okay, what's the remedy? Do we just pay the claim? Or do we pay the judgment? Do we, what is it that we have to do? But the new property owner, they're protected.
So, I mean, this is an actual case, which I hadn't thought of it just now. I just live just south of the wine country, and a good friend of mine, somebody goofed in a survey, and basically her neighbor built 10 feet onto her property for a long stretch. I'm not talking about 10 feet. I'm talking about, she's got 40 acres. So we're talking the boundary of 40 acres. Mm-hmm. And, they went to court over it and she won. Mm-hmm. So how does that affect title? Where title, they both had clear title. I assume.
Well, and it sounds, I mean, without knowing all the particulars of,
Yeah.
the ins and outs of that, but, in this instance, if a survey was done and then that, I don't know if they did the survey to create the legal description. But if a survey was done, then that liability would fall to, the survey.
Yeah.
And they
I
probably have
doubt that a
E&O
survey
insurance
was,
to cover all of that.
yeah, I would doubt that a survey was done for the purchase of either property, because both properties were bought in the 60s or the 70s.
Oh, see that would be that's a very interesting case. If the survey was done in the 60s and then it was sold and developed in 2020 or in the
No, they discovered it in 2021 because what she wanted to do is she wanted to put a bridge over a creek and run a roadway down the side of her property. And he says, no, that's my property. And she says, no, it's not.
There would be a lot of research that I would think that legal would get into to find out what the ramifications were going to be and what the remedy would be. That's a very interesting one.
Yeah. Anyway.
But again, why title insurance is important.
Yeah.
All right, Richard, did you have any more questions for Brenda?
No, I think I've hassled her enough.
Hassled enough. And
it was easy. You guys were good. You were good.
That's right.
Good. I want to bring back up the PowerPoint real quick. Then we can end the call for today. Unless Brenda, you think of something at the last minute that you want to share.
No, I want to thank you again for the opportunity. I'm happy to talk title with anyone specifically about their needs. We are a great resource and a great tool. I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn there as well, or reach out to me. I saw you shared my contact information, so people can reach out to me at any time, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah. I will add that I have spoken with several title companies that will not do contracts for deeds. They want nothing to do with them. They don't understand them, and they don't want to understand them. So to that degree, Brenda, you're offering a very good service.
Thank you.
And we use the service, so we've used it many times.
Yeah.
Those of you that have a note that you want to sell and you'd like us to price it for you, please use our note to quote form here with the QR code. You can scan it with your phone and you can get to our website. If you go to sellers.anbfunds.com and you can get a quote, you can also send us information that way as well. We'll do land contracts, contract for deeds, note and mortgages, note and deed of trust, lease options. As long as it's the first lien residential, pretty much we'll be able to quote it. That's really our thing. So next month, it'll be July 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. We'll be live on YouTube, Facebook, and the other mediums that you may be on right now. So follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page at American Note Buyers. We have Twitter at American Note Buyers and Instagram at American Note Buyers. And like we mentioned, our fund earlier as well, just email us at investors@ambfunds.com to find out more information about the fund that we manage. So Brenda, thank you for being on. We greatly appreciate that. We love doing business with you, and we don't bring many people on the show for the live broadcast, but we definitely thought this was a value add, and we use it as well. And Richard and I, also would like the clarification on stuff that you definitely brung the light on that today. So thank you very much.
Well, again, thank you for having me. I enjoy working with you guys, and I'm happy to come back. And I'm sure there's other topics that may be a factor in our world that we can share. So if you ever want to do a deep dive, let me know. I'm happy to work with you.
Great.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Have a good night, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.